Before we get into the story, leave a comment and let us know what city you're watching from. And don't forget to rate the story from 0 to 10 at the end. Enjoy the story. The coffee shop was crowded that Tuesday morning, filled with the hum of espresso machines and the clatter of ceramic cups. Maya Bennett clutched her worn leather portfolio against her chest, weaving through tables toward the back corner, where job postings were pinned to a corkboard. She'd been job hunting for 3 weeks now, ever since the small cleaning company she worked for went under. Her rent was 2 weeks overdue, and her bank account had exactly $47 left. She pulled out her phone, squinting at the job listing her friend had texted her earlier. Harrington Estate, seeking full-time housekeeper. Experience required. Generous compensation. The address was on the Upper East Side, one of those neighborhoods where Maya usually only passed through on her way to somewhere more affordable. She copied the address into her Maps app, double-checking the street name. Park Avenue. Of course it was Park Avenue. 20 minutes later, Maya stood outside an imposing glass tower that stretched so high she had to crane her neck to see the top. The lobby was all marble and gold fixtures, the kind of place where her second-hand coat and scuffed boots felt wildly out of place. She approached the security desk, pulling out the crumpled printout. "Excuse me, I'm here about the housekeeper position at Harrington Estate." The security guard barely glanced up. "Floor 42, elevator on your right." Maya's stomach flipped. 42 floors up. She'd never even been in a building this tall. The elevator ride felt endless, her reflection staring back at her in the polished metal doors. "Get it together, Bennett. It's just a job interview. You've done this 100 times. The doors opened onto a corridor lined with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Maya followed the signs toward Suite 4200, her heart hammering with each step. But when she reached the door, something felt off. The nameplate didn't say Harrington Estate. Instead, it read, Blackwell Enterprises, Executive Offices. Maya frowned, pulling out her phone to double-check the address. Same building, same floor. Maybe the estate offices were connected somehow. Rich people had weird setups. She pushed open the heavy glass door and stepped inside. The reception area was breathtaking. White leather furniture, abstract art on the walls, and a massive chandelier that looked like it cost more than her entire year's rent. A woman in a crisp black suit sat behind a sleek desk, typing rapidly on a computer. Maya approached, clearing her throat. "Hi, I'm here for the housekeeper interview." The receptionist looked up, her perfectly sculpted eyebrows rising slightly. She glanced at a list on her desk, then back at Maya. "Your name?" "Maya Bennett." The woman's fingers flew across the keyboard. Then she nodded toward a set of double doors. "Through there, third door on the left. Wait in the conference room. Someone will be with you shortly." Maya thanked her and hurried through, her nerves building with every step. The hallway was just as intimidating as the lobby, all glass and steel and expensive-looking everything. She found the third door, pushed it open, and froze. This was not a normal interview room. The space was enormous, with a long mahogany table surrounded by leather chairs. One entire wall was windows, offering a panoramic view of the city, and at the far end of the table sat a man. He was maybe in his early 30s, dressed in a charcoal suit that fit him like it had been tailored by angels. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his jawline sharp enough to cut glass. He was reviewing a stack of papers, a gold pen in one hand. Maya's first thought was that he was absurdly handsome. Her second thought was that she'd definitely walked into the wrong room. The man looked up, his piercing blue eyes locking onto hers. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he set down his pen, leaning back in his chair with an expression that was equal parts curious and amused. "You're early." Maya blinked. I'm sorry," He gestured to the empty chair directly across from him. Please, sit. Maya's mind raced. This couldn't be the housekeeper interview. This guy looked like he ran a Fortune 500 company, not someone hiring domestic staff. But the receptionist had sent her here. Maybe he was some kind of estate manager? She slid into the chair, setting her portfolio on the table. Her hands were shaking slightly, and she clasped them together to hide it. The man picked up a clipboard, scanning it briefly before looking back at her. So, tell me about yourself. Maya swallowed hard. Well, I've worked in residential cleaning for about 5 years now. I'm detail-oriented, reliable, and I have references from He held up a hand, cutting her off. His brow furrowed slightly. Cleaning? Maya nodded slowly, confusion creeping in. Yes. The housekeeper position? Isn't that why I'm here? The man stared at her for a long beat. Then, to her utter shock, he laughed. It wasn't a polite chuckle. It was a real, genuine laugh, the kind that made his shoulders shake and his eyes crinkle at the corners. I'm sorry, he said, still grinning. There's been a misunderstanding. Maya's face flushed hot. Oh, God. I'm in the wrong place, aren't I? Not exactly. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. His amusement hadn't faded, but there was something calculating in his gaze now. This isn't a housekeeping interview. This is he paused, as if choosing his words carefully, a personal selection process. Maya's confusion deepened. Personal selection? For what? He tilted his head, studying her with unsettling intensity. For a wife. The words hung in the air like a bomb that hadn't quite detonated yet. Maya was certain she'd misheard. I'm sorry. What? A wife, he repeated calmly, as if this were the most normal thing in the world. My family has given me an ultimatum. I need to be married within 6 months, or I lose control of the company. So I'm interviewing candidates. Maya stared at him, her brain struggling to process what she was hearing. This had to be a joke, some kind of elaborate prank. But the man's expression was completely serious now, his blue eyes locked on hers. You're interviewing people to marry you? That's insane. Perhaps, he shrugged, but I prefer to think of it as efficient. I don't have time for traditional dating. This way, I can find someone suitable. We both benefit from the arrangement, and everyone walks away satisfied. Maya shook her head, pushing her chair back. Okay, well, good luck with that. But I'm definitely in the wrong room. I should go. Wait. His voice was sharp, commanding. She froze halfway out of her seat. He stood, walking around the table toward her. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a presence that seemed to fill the entire room. What's your name? Maya, she said warily. Maya Bennett. He extended a hand. Ethan Blackwell. Despite her better judgment, Maya shook it. His grip was firm, warm. Ethan Blackwell. The name sounded vaguely familiar, though she couldn't place why. Maya, I realize this is unconventional, but hear me out. You clearly need a job. You're here because you're looking for work, correct? She hesitated, then nodded. And I need someone to fulfill a very specific role. Not a housekeeper, but something that could be equally beneficial to both of us. Maya crossed her arms. I'm not going to marry a stranger just because you need to check a box for your family. Of course not. Ethan's lips curved into a faint smile. But what if it wasn't real? What if it was a contract, a business arrangement? You'd play the role of my fiancé for 6 months. In exchange, I'd pay you a salary, cover all your expenses, and at the end of the term, we'd go our separate ways. No strings attached. Maya's heart was pounding now, but not entirely from fear. This was the most absurd thing she'd ever heard. And yet, A small, desperate part of her brain was doing the math. 6 months of guaranteed income. No more scrambling for rent. No more job hunting. Just play pretend. You're serious. Completely. He pulled a business card from his pocket and handed it to her. Think about it. If you're interested, call me. If not, no harm done. Maya took the card, her fingers brushing against the expensive cardstock. Ethan Blackwell, CEO, Blackwell Enterprises. Her eyes widened. Wait. You're that Blackwell? He smirked. Guilty. She'd seen his face in business magazines. Heard his name whispered in the kinds of circles she'd never be part of. Ethan Blackwell was one of the youngest billionaires in the country, known for being ruthless, brilliant, and completely untouchable. And he was standing here, offering her a fake marriage. This is crazy, Maya muttered. Yes, Ethan agreed. But sometimes, crazy is exactly what we need. She looked down at the card in her hand, then back up at him. His blue eyes were unreadable. But there was something almost vulnerable beneath the surface. Something that made her wonder if maybe, just maybe, he wasn't as cold as everyone said. I need to think about it. Take all the time you need. He stepped back, gesturing toward the door. But Maya, she paused, glancing over her shoulder. Life doesn't often hand you second chances. Don't waste this one. Maya walked out of that office in a daze, the business card burning a hole in her pocket. By the time she reached the street, her phone was already buzzing with a text from her landlord. Final notice. Eviction proceedings begin Monday. She looked back up at the towering building, then down at the card in her hand. Crazy. This was absolutely crazy. But maybe crazy was exactly what she needed. Maya spent the next 2 days trying to convince herself she wasn't actually considering Ethan Blackwell's insane proposal. She lay on her lumpy couch in her tiny studio apartment, staring at the water-stained ceiling and replaying the conversation in her mind. A fake wife, for 6 months, to a billionaire. It sounded like the plot of a bad romance novel. And yet, every time she opened her bank app and saw that $47 mocking her, the idea seemed a little less absurd. On Thursday afternoon, her best friend Jenna came over with Chinese takeout and a bottle of cheap wine. Maya had texted her the broad strokes, but Jenna needed the full story. So let me get this straight, Jenna said, stabbing her chopsticks into a container of lo mein. You walked into the wrong interview, and some billionaire CEO just casually offered to pay you to be his fake wife? Maya nodded, sipping her wine. Pretty much. That's either the best or worst mistake you've ever made. I'm leaning toward worst, Maya muttered. Jenna, this guy is Ethan Blackwell. He's probably got a dozen women lined up who'd kill for this opportunity. Why would he pick me? Because you weren't trying to impress him? Jenna shrugged. Maybe he's tired of gold diggers. You walked in there asking about cleaning toilets. That's probably refreshing for a guy like him. Maya groaned, dropping her head into her hands. This is insane. I can't do this. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? Maya looked up, incredulous. I could fall for a guy who sees me as a business transaction? I could get my heart broken? I could end up in way over my head with people who have more money than I'll ever see in my lifetime. Jenna grinned. Or you could have 6 months of financial security, get to live like a queen, and walk away with enough money to start fresh. Come on, Maya. When was the last time life handed you an opportunity like this? Never, Maya admitted. Exactly. Jenna leaned forward, her expression turning serious. Look, I'm not saying it's not risky, but you're about to get evicted. You've been eating ramen for 3 weeks. What do you really have to lose? Maya wanted to argue, but the truth was, Jenna had a point. She had nothing. No savings, no safety net, no family to fall back on. If she didn't do something drastic, She'd be homeless by next month. That night, Maya sat on her bed, Ethan's business card balanced between her fingers. She'd read it so many times the edges were starting to fray. Finally, before she could talk herself out of it, she picked up her phone and dialed the number. It rang twice before a smooth, familiar voice answered. Ethan Blackwell. Maya took a deep breath. It's Maya Bennett. We met on Tuesday. There was a pause, then a hint of amusement colored his tone. Maya. I was hoping you'd call. She bit her lip, her heart racing. I've thought about your offer. And? I have questions. Of course. Let's meet tomorrow. Dinner. I'll send a car to pick you up at 7. Before she could respond, he added, and Maya, dress nicely. We'll be going somewhere public. The line went dead. Maya stared at her phone, equal parts terrified and exhilarated. What the hell am I doing? The next evening, a sleek black car pulled up outside her building precisely at 7. The driver, an older man in a crisp suit, opened the door for her without a word. Maya slid into the back seat, her hand smoothing over the simple black dress she'd borrowed from Jenna. It wasn't designer, but it was the best she had. The car glided through the city, eventually stopping in front of a restaurant Maya had only seen in magazines. Le Bernardin, one of the most expensive places in New York. The maitre d' greeted her by name, leading her through the elegant dining room to a private corner table. Ethan was already there, looking effortlessly perfect in a navy suit. He stood as she approached, pulling out her chair. You look lovely. Maya's cheeks flushed. Thanks. You didn't have to go this overboard. It's just a conversation. He smiled faintly. I prefer to do things properly. Once they'd ordered wine and appetizers, Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying her with those impossibly blue eyes. So, your questions. Maya pulled out her phone, where she'd typed up a list. First, why me? You could hire an actress, a model, someone who actually knows how to navigate your world. Why pick a girl who showed up thinking she was interviewing to scrub your floors? Ethan's lips twitched. Honestly? Because you were real. Every other woman I've met in my circles has an agenda. They want my money, my connections, my name. You walked in there with no idea who I was, and you treated me like a regular person. That's rare. Maya wasn't sure how to respond to that, so she moved on. Second question. What exactly would this arrangement entail? He took a sip of his wine before answering. You'd move into my penthouse. We'd attend events together, family dinners, charity galas, the occasional business function. To the outside world, we'd appear to be a couple, engaged specifically. But behind closed doors, it's purely professional. Separate bedrooms, no expectations of anything beyond the performance. And after 6 months? After 6 months, we stage a quiet breakup. You walk away with $250,000. Maya nearly choked on her water. $250,000. Ethan nodded calmly. Plus living expenses, a clothing allowance, and anything else you need to maintain the illusion. I don't do things halfway, Maya. Maya's mind reeled. That kind of money could change her entire life. She could pay off her debts, go back to school, start over completely. But there was one more question she had to ask. What happens if one of us catches feelings? Ethan's expression hardened slightly. That won't be an issue. This is a business arrangement. Feelings complicate things. I don't do complications. His answer should have reassured her. Instead, it sent a strange pang through her chest. She ignored it, setting her phone down. Okay. If I agree to this, I have some conditions. He raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. 1. I want everything in writing. A contract that protects both of us. 2. If at any point I feel unsafe or uncomfortable, I can walk away. No questions asked. And 3. She met his gaze steadily. You treat me with respect. I'm not your employee. I'm your partner in this. For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. Then he extended his hand across the table. Deal. Maya hesitated, then shook it. His hand was warm, his grip firm. Something electric passed between them, a spark that made her heart skip. She pulled her hand back quickly, trying to ignore it. So, Ethan said, leaning back with a satisfied smile. When can you move in? Maya laughed, the sound a little breathless. You don't waste time, do you? Not when I know what I want. And right now, he looked at her with an intensity that made her stomach flip. I want you to say, yes. Maya took a long sip of her wine, her mind spinning. This was crazy. Absolutely, completely crazy. But maybe Jenna was right. Maybe crazy was exactly what she needed. She set down her glass and met his eyes. Okay. Yes, I'll do it. Ethan's smile widened, and for the first time it reached his eyes. Welcome to the deal, Maya Bennett. She smiled back, even as a voice in the back of her mind whispered a warning. Be careful, Bennett. This is how stories like yours either end in fairy tales or complete disaster. But it was too late to turn back now. She'd already shaken hands with the devil. Or maybe, she thought, as she watched Ethan smile with someone far more dangerous. Someone who could make her forget this was all pretend. Moving into Ethan Blackwell's penthouse felt like stepping into a different universe. Maya stood in the marble foyer, her single duffel bag slung over her shoulder, and tried not to gape. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park, the city sprawling out beneath them like a living, breathing thing. The furniture was all clean lines and muted tones, expensive without being ostentatious. Art that probably cost more than her childhood home hung on the walls. This is where you live? Maya's voice came out smaller than she intended. Ethan, who'd been checking something on his phone, glanced up. It's where we live now. He gestured toward a hallway. Your room is the second door on the left. I've had it prepared for you. Maya followed him, her footsteps echoing on the polished floors. He pushed open a door to reveal a bedroom that was easily twice the size of her entire apartment. A king-sized bed with crisp white linens, a walk-in closet, a bathroom with a soaking tub that looked like something out of a spa. Holy hell, she breathed. Ethan leaned against the doorframe, watching her reaction with what might have been amusement. There's a stylist coming tomorrow to update your wardrobe. We have a family dinner on Saturday, and you'll need something appropriate. Maya turned to face him, reality crashing back in. Right. The performance starts now. Not now. He straightened, his expression shifting back to business mode. Now, you settle in. Get comfortable. Tomorrow, we'll go over the details of my family, the story of how we met, everything you need to know. Tonight. Just rest. Before she could respond, he was gone, the door closing softly behind him. Maya sank onto the bed, the mattress so soft it felt like sitting on a cloud. She pulled out her phone and texted Jenna. I'm in. This is either going to be amazing or a complete catastrophe. Jenna's response came almost instantly. Probably both. Send pictures of the closet. Maya laughed despite herself, snapping a photo of the walk-in closet that was currently very empty, save for her 3 pairs of jeans and a handful of t-shirts. Then she lay back on the bed, staring up at the ceiling, and wondered what the hell she'd gotten herself into. The next morning, Maya woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and momentarily forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The penthouse. The deal. Ethan. She found him in the kitchen, already dressed in a suit despite it being barely 8 in the morning. He was drinking coffee and reading something on a tablet, the picture of controlled efficiency. Morning, Maya said, padding in barefoot. She'd thrown on sweatpants and an old college hoodie, feeling wildly underdressed. Ethan looked up, his gaze sweeping over her casual outfit. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. "Good morning. Coffee?" "Please." He poured her a cup, black, and slid it across the marble island. "The stylist will be here at 10. After that, we need to go over your backstory." "Backstory?" Ethan set down his tablet. "How we met, how long we've been together. The details that people will ask about. We need our story to be airtight." Maya wrapped her hands around the warm mug. "Okay. So what's the story?" He leaned against the counter, considering. "I think we should stay as close to the truth as possible. Easier to remember. We met by chance when you came to my office. I was immediately taken with you. We've been seeing each other quietly for the past 2 months, and I proposed last week. That's fast. I'm decisive." His tone was matter-of-fact. "When I know what I want, I don't wait." Maya felt her cheeks warm and looked down into her coffee. "Right. And your family? Do they know this is an arrangement?" "God, no." Ethan's expression hardened. "They can never know. As far as they're concerned, you're the real thing. My mother, especially. She's been pushing me to settle down for years." This will finally get her off my back. Maya felt a twinge of sympathy. "What about your father?" "Dead. 10 years ago." Ethan's voice was flat, emotionless. "It's just my mother and my younger sister, Olivia. She's 24, just finished grad school, and she's going to interrogate you mercilessly." "Sounds fun," Maya said dryly. "She's protective." Ethan's expression softened slightly. "She wants to make sure I'm not being taken advantage of." The irony wasn't lost on either of them. At 10 sharp, the doorbell rang. The stylist, a woman named Celeste, who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine, swept in with 2 assistants and approximately 40 garment bags. Maya spent the next 3 hours being measured, fitted, and dressed in outfit after outfit. Cocktail dresses, business casual, evening gowns. Celeste had an opinion on everything, from Maya's posture to her hair. By the time she left, Maya's closet looked like it belonged to someone else entirely. Someone who shopped on Fifth Avenue and didn't check price tags. That evening, Ethan insisted they practice. "Practice what?" Maya asked, eyeing him warily. "Being a couple." He gestured to the living room. "Sit with me." They settled onto the couch, and immediately Maya felt the awkwardness of it. They were sitting a careful foot apart, like strangers on a bus. Ethan sighed. "This isn't going to work. You look like you're terrified of me." "I'm not terrified. Wary, maybe." He shifted closer, his thigh nearly touching hers. "We need to be comfortable with each other. People will notice if we're stiff." Maya swallowed hard. "So what do you suggest?" Ethan reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers brushing her cheek. "Like this. Your heart is racing." She could feel it, hammering against her ribs. "Is that a problem?" "No." His voice was softer now, his blue eyes locked on hers. "It means you're human." For a moment, neither of them moved. The air between them felt charged, electric. Then Ethan pulled back, clearing his throat. "That's better. Now you look like someone who might actually be in love with me." Maya's breath was uneven. "Right. Acting." He stood, his mask of control firmly back in place. "The family dinner is tomorrow night at my mother's estate. Dress nicely. Be charming. And remember," his gaze pinned her, "we're madly in love." After he left the room, Maya sat there for a long time, her cheek still tingling where he'd touched her. "This is just business," she reminded herself. "Just an act." But the way her heart was still racing suggested that her body hadn't gotten the memo. Saturday arrived far too quickly. Maya spent the morning in a state of nervous energy, changing outfits 3 times before finally settling on a navy blue dress that Celeste had insisted was perfect for meeting future in-laws. When Ethan saw her, something flickered in his eyes. "You look beautiful." It was the first genuine compliment he'd given her, and it made her stomach flip. "Thanks. You clean up pretty well yourself." He was wearing a charcoal suit, his dark hair perfectly styled, and he looked every inch the billionaire CEO. "They're going to eat me alive, aren't they?" Maya said as they headed down to the car. Ethan's hand found the small of her back, a gesture that felt natural and yet sent electricity up her spine. "Just be yourself. My mother values authenticity." The drive to his mother's estate took 45 minutes, and with each passing mile, Maya's anxiety grew. What if they saw through her? What if she said the wrong thing? Ethan seemed to sense her panic. He reached over and took her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. "Breathe. You'll be fine." His touch steadied her, and she clung to it like a lifeline. When they pulled up to the estate, a sprawling mansion that made Ethan's penthouse look modest, Maya's mouth went dry. "This is where you grew up?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "Unfortunately." Before she could ask what he meant, the front door opened. A woman in her 60s, elegant and poised, stepped out. Her sharp eyes swept over Maya, assessing. "Ethan." She kissed his cheek, then turned to Maya with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "And you must be the mystery woman who's stolen my son's heart." Maya extended her hand, forcing her voice to stay steady. "Maya Bennett. It's lovely to meet you, Mrs. Blackwell. Call me Catherine." The older woman's grip was firm, her gaze piercing. "Come inside. Dinner's almost ready." And just like that, Maya stepped into a world where every word, every gesture, every smile would be scrutinized, where one wrong move could unravel everything. Ethan squeezed her hand tight, a silent reassurance, before leading her inside. And Maya thought, not for the first time, that she might be in way over her head. The dining room was as intimidating as the rest of the house, all dark wood and crystal chandeliers. Catherine Blackwell sat at the head of the table, Ethan to her right, and Maya across from him. The only other person present was Olivia, Ethan's sister, who'd arrived late and burst through the door with an energy that immediately filled the room. Sorry. Olivia dropped into the chair next to Maya, flashing a grin. Traffic was insane. She turned to Maya, her eyes bright with curiosity. "So you're the one who finally got my brother to commit. I need to know everything." "Olivia." Ethan's tone carried a warning. "What?" "I'm just being friendly." Olivia leaned closer to Maya, stage whispering. "He's probably terrified I'll scare you off." Maya couldn't help but smile. Something about Olivia's warmth immediately put her at ease. "I'm not that easy to scare." "I like her already," Olivia declared, and even Catherine's lips twitched with amusement. Throughout dinner, Catherine asked pointed questions. Where was Maya from? What did she do for work? How did she and Ethan meet? Maya stuck to the script they'd rehearsed, her answers smooth and believable. But she could feel Catherine's sharp gaze dissecting every word, looking for cracks. "So you just happened to walk into his office?" Catherine's tone was skeptical. "And he just happened to fall for you?" Maya met her eyes steadily. "I think we both surprised ourselves. Love doesn't always follow a plan." Across the table, Ethan's expression softened, and for a moment, it almost looked real. Catherine studied them for a long beat, then finally nodded. "Well, you certainly seem to make him happy. I haven't seen him smile this much in years." Olivia grinned. "That's because he's usually a robot. All work, no fun." "I'm sitting right here," Ethan said dryly. "Exactly my point." Olivia turned back to Maya. Please tell me you're going to loosen him up, teach him how to have fun." "I'll do my best," Maya said, and when she glanced at Ethan, she caught him trying not to smile. After dinner, Catherine insisted on showing Maya the garden. Ethan tried to follow, but his mother waved him off. "Girl talk, darling. You'll survive 10 minutes without her." Maya followed Catherine outside, her nerves jangling. The garden was beautiful, all manicured hedges and blooming roses. Catherine walked slowly, her hands clasped behind her back. "You're not what I expected." Maya wasn't sure if that was a compliment or an insult. "What did you expect? Someone more polished, someone from Ethan's usual circles." Catherine stopped, turning to face her. "My son is a brilliant man, but he's also deeply guarded. He doesn't let people in easily. If he's chosen you, there must be something real there." Guilt twisted in Maya's stomach. She forced herself to meet Catherine's gaze. "I care about him very much." I hope that came out sounding genuine, because beneath the lie, Maya was starting to realize it might actually be true. Catherine studied her for another long moment, then smiled. "Good. Because if you hurt him, I'll make your life very difficult." It was said pleasantly, but the steel underneath was unmistakable. Maya nodded. Understood. When they returned inside, Ethan was waiting by the door. His eyes found Maya immediately, and she saw the question there. "You okay?" She gave a small nod. Catherine squeezed Maya's hand. "Welcome to the family, dear." The drive home was quiet. Maya stared out the window, processing everything. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. "You did well tonight. My mother liked you." Maya turned to look at him. "How can you tell? She didn't eviscerate you. Trust me, that's a good sign." Maya laughed, the tension finally breaking. "Your family is intense. Olivia's great, though. She reminds me of you." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "How so?" "She's the version of you that actually smiles." Ouch. But he was smiling now, that rare, genuine expression that transformed his whole face. Maya felt her heart do something dangerous. They arrived back at the penthouse, and as they stepped into the elevator, the reality of what they were doing hit Maya all over again. They'd just lied to his family, convincingly, and it had felt almost too easy. In the penthouse, Ethan loosened his tie, looking more relaxed than she'd seen him. "Thank you for tonight. You played your part perfectly." Maya kicked off her heels, wincing. "These things are torture devices. I don't know how people wear them regularly." Ethan's eyes dropped to her bare feet, then back up to her face. "You didn't have to pretend to like Olivia. I know you weren't acting there." "No," Maya admitted. "She's easy to like. Unlike her brother." His tone was teasing. Maya smiled. "The jury's still out on him." Ethan crossed the room, stopping in front of her. His expression was unreadable. "And what would sway the jury in my favor?" Maya's breath caught. He was close enough that she could see the flecks of silver in his blue eyes. "I don't know. Maybe if he stopped being so serious all the time." "Let me show you who he really is. I'm not serious all the time. You're serious 99% of the time." Ethan tilted his head, considering. "Then I suppose I need to work on that 1%. Before Maya could respond, he stepped back, the moment breaking. She felt the loss of his closeness like a physical thing. "Good night, Maya." "Good night." She watched him disappear down the hall, then let out a shaky breath. "This is just an arrangement," she reminded herself for the 100th time. But as she got ready for bed, she couldn't stop replaying the way he'd looked at her. Like maybe, just maybe, he was starting to forget it was fake too. The next few weeks fell into a strange rhythm. During the day, Maya had the penthouse mostly to herself while Ethan worked. She'd explore the city, meet Jenna for coffee, and try to adjust to this surreal new life. In the evenings, they'd have dinner together, sometimes in comfortable silence, sometimes in surprising conversation. Ethan, it turned out, was funny when he let his guard down. Dry and sarcastic, but genuinely funny. They attended 2 more family dinners, a charity gala, and a business cocktail party. Each time, they played their roles perfectly. The engaged couple, madly in love, unable to keep their hands off each other. Except it was getting harder to tell where the act ended and reality began. At the charity gala, Ethan had kept his hand on her waist all night, his thumb tracing absent circles that made her skin tingle. When a business associate had made a slightly inappropriate comment, Ethan's grip had tightened possessively, his eyes going cold. During a quiet moment on the balcony, Maya had called him on it. "You know you don't have to go full caveman. I can handle myself." "I know." His voice had been quiet. "But I didn't like the way he was looking at you." "That's not part of the act, is it?" Maya had asked. Ethan had met her eyes, and for a long moment he'd said nothing. Then, "No, it's not." Now, a month into their arrangement, Maya sat in the penthouse living room, supposedly reading a book, but her mind kept drifting to Ethan, who was in his home office on yet another conference call. She heard his voice, low and commanding, and felt that now familiar flip in her stomach. This is a problem, she thought, a big problem, because somewhere between the family dinners and the fake smiles and the late-night conversations, Maya had started to develop real feelings for Ethan Blackwell. And she was pretty sure that wasn't in the contract. Maya was curled up on the couch with her laptop when Ethan emerged from his office, looking exhausted. He'd been on call since 6 that morning, and it was now past 8 at night. "You need to eat," Maya said. Closing her computer, Ethan rubbed his eyes. "I'll grab something later." "No, you won't. You'll work until midnight and forget entirely." Maya stood, heading toward the kitchen. "I'm making pasta. Nothing fancy, but it's food. You don't have to do that. Consider it payback for the designer wardrobe and the penthouse suite." Maya started pulling out ingredients, very aware of Ethan leaning against the counter, watching her. "What?" she asked without turning around. "Nothing. It's just..." His voice was softer than usual. "No one's cooked for me in a long time." Maya glanced over her shoulder, surprised by the vulnerability in his tone. "Well, don't get too excited. I'm not exactly a chef, but I can make a decent carbonara." She worked in comfortable silence, Ethan still watching. When the pasta was ready, they sat at the kitchen island instead of the formal dining room. Something about it felt more intimate, more real. "This is really good," Ethan said after his first bite. "Told you." Maya twirled pasta around her fork. "So, what crisis were you managing all day?" "A hostile takeover attempt. Someone thinks they can buy out enough shareholders to force my hand." Ethan's jaw tightened. "They're wrong. Will you win?" "I always win." But it was said without arrogance, just a simple statement of fact. Maya studied him, this complicated man she was slowly beginning to understand. "You know, you don't always have to be in control. Sometimes it's okay to let your guard down." His eyes met hers. "Is that what you think I should do? With you?" The air between them shifted, charged. Maya set down her fork, her heart racing. "I think..." She chose her words carefully. "I think we're both pretending this is just business, but it's starting to feel like more." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood, walking around the island until he was standing in front of her. Maya's breath caught as he reached out, tilting her chin up with one finger. "You're right." His voice was low, almost rough. It stopped feeling like business weeks ago. For me, at least. Maya's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. Ethan. What are we doing? I don't know. His thumb brushed her lower lip and she shivered. But I'm tired of pretending I don't want this. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. When his lips met hers, it was like every fake kiss they'd shared for cameras had been building to this moment. This was real. Hungry and desperate and real. Maya's hands found his shirt, pulling him closer. Ethan's arms wrapped around her waist, lifting her onto the counter. The kiss deepened, and Maya forgot about contracts and arrangements and 6-month timelines. All she knew was that she'd wanted this for weeks, and now that it was happening, she never wanted it to stop. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. This complicates things. Maya laughed breathlessly. Understatement of the year. We should talk about this. Tomorrow, Maya agreed. Tonight, just kiss me again. So he did. Later, much later, they ended up on the couch. Maya tucked against Ethan's side, his fingers running through her hair. This wasn't in the plan, he murmured. No, Maya agreed. But maybe that's okay. Plans change. Ethan pressed a kiss to the top of her head. I don't do relationships, Maya. I don't know how. Then we'll figure it out together. She tilted her head back to look at him. No more pretending. Just us. Something vulnerable flickered in his eyes. Just us. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other. And for the first time since this whole thing started, Maya didn't feel like she was playing a role. She felt like herself. The next morning, Maya woke to find Ethan already gone, a note on the pillow beside her. Had to handle the takeover situation. Dinner tonight? We need to talk. Maya smiled, clutching the note. But her happiness was short-lived. When she checked her phone, there were 3 missed calls from an unknown number and a voicemail. She pressed play. Miss Bennett, this is James Crawford from the New York Tribune. I'm calling about your relationship with Ethan Blackwell. I have information suggesting your engagement is a business arrangement, not a genuine relationship. I'd like to give you a chance to comment before we run the story tomorrow. Call me back. Maya's blood ran cold. She played the message again, her hands shaking. How did they know? Who had talked? She immediately called Ethan. It went to voicemail. Call me back. It's urgent. She tried again. And again. Finally, she texted. A reporter knows about our arrangement. They're running a story tomorrow. Ethan, what do we do? Minutes felt like hours. Finally, her phone rang. I'm on my way, Ethan said without preamble. Don't talk to anyone. Don't leave the penthouse. I'll handle this. How did they find out? I don't know. But I'm going to find out who leaked it. His voice was hard, cold. The CEO voice she hadn't heard in weeks. Ethan. Her voice broke. I'm sorry. This is my fault. Don't. He softened slightly. None of this is your fault. Just stay put. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The call ended. Maya sank onto the couch, her mind racing. If this story broke, everything would fall apart. Ethan's reputation, his company, his relationship with his family, and her. She'd be painted as a gold digger, a con artist. She pulled up the reporter's number, staring at it. Maybe she could fix this. Maybe if she called and explained. Her finger hovered over the call button. But before she could decide, the penthouse door burst open. Ethan strode in, his expression thunderous. His eyes found hers immediately. Are you okay? I'm fine. How bad is this? Bad. He ran a hand through his hair, the first time she'd seen him truly rattled. If this story breaks, it'll destroy everything. The company. My credibility. His jaw clenched. My family will never forgive me. Maya's guilt was crushing. We need to tell the truth. Get ahead of the story. Ethan shook his head. That's not how this works. Once we admit it, we lose all control of the narrative. So what do? He crossed the room, taking her hands. His eyes bore into hers. We get married. For real. Maya was certain she'd misheard. I'm sorry, what? Ethan's grip on her hands tightened. We get married. Tomorrow. Today, if possible. If we're legally married before the story breaks, it becomes much harder to prove it was fake. This is insane. Maybe. His eyes searched hers. But it's the only way to protect both of us. And our families. Maya pulled her hands free, pacing across the room. Ethan, we can't just get married because a reporter is threatening to expose us. That's exactly what we can do. He followed her. Maya, listen to me. If this story breaks the way it is, you'll be crucified. They'll call you a scam artist. Do you understand what that means? Your life will be destroyed. And what if we actually get married? What happens when we file for divorce in 6 months? We'll deal with that then. Right now, we need damage control. Maya whirled to face him. This is crazy. We barely know each other. We've been living together for a month. I know you take your coffee black. I know you can't sleep without reading first. I know you hate wearing heels, but you do it anyway, because you think you're supposed to. I know you snort when you laugh really hard, and I know his voice softened. I know I don't want to lose you. Maya's breath caught. Don't. Don't what? Don't make this about feelings when it's really about saving your company. Ethan flinched like she'd slapped him. Is that what you think this is? I don't know what to think. Maya's voice cracked. A week ago, this was a business arrangement. Then last night happened. And now you're asking me to marry you for real because a reporter found out the truth. How am I supposed to know what's real and what's just another performance? Silence fell between them, heavy and suffocating. Finally, Ethan spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. You're right. I'm asking too much. He turned toward the door. I'll handle the reporter. You don't have to do anything. Wait. Maya's voice stopped him. He looked back, and she saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Fear. You're scared. Of course I'm scared. Ethan's mask cracked completely. I'm terrified. Because somewhere along the way, this stopped being fake for me. And now, I'm about to lose everything, including the one person who actually sees me. Maya felt tears prickling her eyes. When did it stop being fake? The night you burned dinner trying to cook for me, and you laughed so hard you cried. He took a step toward her. Or maybe it was when you told off that business partner who was being condescending to my assistant. Or when you sat with Olivia for 3 hours helping her with her thesis. I don't know exactly when, Maya. I just know that, at some point, I fell in love with you. And I don't know how to fix that. Maya's heart stopped. You what? I love you, he said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. I know it's not part of the contract. I know it complicates everything. But I can't keep pretending I don't. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You're an idiot, he smiled sadly. I know, because I've been in love with you for weeks, and I was too scared to say anything. Ethan closed the distance between them in 2 strides, cupping her face in his hands. Say that again. I love you, she whispered. I love you, and I'm terrified, and I don't know if this is the stupidest decision I've ever made. But yes, I'll marry you. For real. This time, when he kissed her, it was different. Softer. Full of promise. When they broke apart, both of them were crying. We're really doing this? Maya asked. We're really doing this, Ethan confirmed. And then, because they were apparently committed to making impulsive decisions, they called a lawyer and arranged for a marriage license. By that afternoon, they were standing in a small courthouse office with Jenna and Olivia as witnesses, saying vows that were supposed to be fake, but felt more real than anything Maya had ever done. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Ethan pulled Maya close and whispered, "No more pretending." "No more pretending," she agreed. The kiss was brief but electric, and when they broke apart, Olivia was crying, Jenna was grinning like a maniac, and Maya realized that somehow, against all odds, this insane plan had turned into something real. That evening, back at the penthouse, now legally married, they lay in bed together. Ethan traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "So we're married. Legally. Officially married." Maya turned to look at him. Having second thoughts, he kissed her forehead. Not even for a second. "Though I should probably tell you, I'm not easy to live with." "I figured that out when I saw your color-coded closet," Maya teased. Ethan laughed, the sound warm and unguarded. "You're going to give me hell, aren't you? Every single day." "Good." His arms tightened around her. "I need that. Someone to keep me human." They fell asleep wrapped around each other, and when Maya woke the next morning, it took her a moment to remember. She was married, to Ethan Blackwell. For real. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, all she felt was a deep, settled happiness. Ethan was still asleep beside her, his usually guarded expression soft in sleep. Maya pressed a kiss to his shoulder, and he stirred. "Morning, wife." He didn't open his eyes, but he smiled. "Morning, husband." God, that sounds weird. You'll get used to it. He pulled her closer. "We have time, all the time in the world." And for the first time since this whole crazy thing started, Maya believed it. The news broke anyway. 2 days after their courthouse wedding, the New York Tribune ran a front-page story. Blackwell's billion-dollar marriage, business deal, or true love. The article was scathing, full of anonymous sources claiming the marriage was a sham designed to satisfy board requirements. Except now, there was one crucial difference. Maya and Ethan were actually married. Ethan called an emergency press conference. Maya stood beside him in his office, watching news vans gather outside Blackwell Enterprises. "You don't have to do this," he said for the third time. "We can issue a statement without you. I'm your wife." Maya straightened her shoulders. "We do this together." The press conference was brutal. Reporters fired questions like weapons. "Is it true you hired Miss Bennett to pose as your fiancée? Did you pay her? Is this marriage even legal?" Ethan faced them with his usual ice-cold composure. "My wife and I met unconventionally, that's true. But our relationship is real, and our marriage is legal." He reached for Maya's hand, lacing his fingers through hers. "As for the rest, I don't owe anyone an explanation about my private life," one reporter pressed. "But sources say—" Ethan cut him off. "Sources can say whatever they want. I know the truth. Maya knows the truth. And that's all that matters." Afterward, in the car, Maya let out a shaky breath. That was intense. Ethan squeezed her hand. "You were perfect. I thought I was going to throw up. You hit it well." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "Thank you for standing with me. Where else would I be?" The backlash was immediate and fierce. Social media exploded with opinions. Some people thought it was romantic, a modern fairy tale. Others called Maya a gold digger and Ethan a fraud. The board of Blackwell Enterprises called an emergency meeting. For 3 days, Ethan was locked in negotiations, fighting to maintain control of his company. Maya wanted to help, but there was nothing she could do except wait. She spent the time with Jenna, who'd been fielding her own questions from curious friends. "So," Jenna said over coffee, "you actually married him?" "For real?" Maya nodded. "I know it sounds crazy. It is crazy." Jenna grinned. "But I've never seen you this happy. So clearly, Crazy works for you. Am I insane for believing this will work out? Probably. But love usually is a little insane. On the 4th day, Ethan came home early. Maya looked up from her book, immediately reading his expression. What happened? I won. He loosened his tie, a smile breaking across his face. The board voted to keep me as CEO. They decided the marriage question was irrelevant as long as the company keeps performing. Relief flooded through her. Ethan. That's amazing. He crossed the room, pulling her into his arms. I couldn't have done it without you. Being able to come home to you every night, knowing you believed in me, it made all the difference. Maya kissed him, soft and lingering. So what now? Now, Ethan said against her lips, we live our lives. No more pretending. No more performances. Just us. But the fallout wasn't over. That weekend, Catherine requested their presence for an emergency family meeting. Maya's stomach churned with anxiety as they drove to the estate. Catherine was waiting in the formal living room, her expression unreadable. Olivia sat beside her, looking worried. Ethan's jaw was tight. Mother. Catherine gestured to the sofa across from her. Sit. Please. They sat, Ethan's hand finding Maya's immediately. I've been reading the news, Catherine began, and I have questions. Ethan straightened. I know how it looks. It looks like you lied to me. To all of us. Catherine's voice was cold. It looks like you brought this woman into our family under false pretenses. That's not fair, Olivia interjected. Mom, you don't know the whole story. Then perhaps someone should tell it. Catherine's eyes fixed on Maya. Miss Bennett. Or should I say, Mrs. Blackwell. Did my son pay you to marry him? Maya felt Ethan tense beside her, but she met Catherine's gaze steadily. At first, yes. This was a business arrangement. But then I fell in love with him, and everything changed. Catherine's expression didn't soften. Love? You expect me to believe that? I don't expect anything, Maya said quietly. But it's the truth. Ethan didn't want me to come here today. He wanted to protect me from this. But I insisted because I need you to know. Your son is one of the best men I've ever met. He's brilliant and driven and, yes, sometimes, too controlled. But he's also kind and funny, and he loves his family so much it scares him. She squeezed Ethan's hand. This started as a deal. But somewhere along the way, it became real. And I don't care if you believe me. I know what's in my heart. Silence fell. Catherine studied them, her sharp eyes missing nothing. Finally, she sighed. Ethan, when your father died, I watched you build walls around yourself. You became so focused on the company, on being perfect, that you forgot to live. She looked at Maya. I don't know how this started, but I can see how it is now. When I look at you two together, I see something I haven't seen in my son in years. I see him happy. Ethan's voice was thick. Mom, I'm sorry. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. You should have. But Catherine's lips curved slightly. I understand why you didn't. And if Miss Bennett, Maya, if Maya makes you happy, then that's all I need to know. Maya felt tears prickling her eyes. Olivia jumped up, pulling Maya into a hug. I knew it. I knew you two were the real deal. Ethan pulled his mother into a rare embrace, and Maya watched, her heart full. That night, back at the penthouse, Maya and Ethan stood on the balcony, overlooking the city. The lights glittered below them, a universe of possibilities. We made it, Maya said softly. Through all of it, we made it. Ethan wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. And we'll keep making it, whatever comes next. Maya leaned back against him, feeling safe and loved and impossibly lucky. This wasn't how she'd imagined her life would turn out. Walking into the wrong interview had led to the craziest, most wonderful thing that had ever happened to her. Maybe, she thought, sometimes the best things come from the biggest mistakes. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too." Ethan pressed a kiss to her neck. "Mrs. Blackwell." She smiled. "Yeah, I think I'm going to like that name." 6 months after their courthouse wedding, Maya woke to sunlight streaming through the bedroom windows and Ethan's arm draped over her waist. She turned to find him already awake, watching her with that soft expression he reserved only for her. "Morning," she murmured. "Happy anniversary." Maya's eyes widened. "Oh my God, I completely forgot." Ethan laughed, pulling her closer. "Some wife you are. In my defense, we've had a lot going on. Excuses, excuses." He kissed her forehead. "Get dressed. We're going out." "Where?" "You'll see." An hour later, they stood in front of a small brownstone in Brooklyn. Maya looked up at it, confused. "Whose house is this?" "Ours." Ethan pulled out a set of keys. "If you want it." Maya's breath caught. "You bought us a house?" He shrugged, looking almost shy. "The penthouse is mine," I thought. "Maybe we should have something that's ours. Together. A fresh start." Maya threw her arms around his neck, kissing him hard. "Yes. Yes, I want it." They spent the afternoon exploring their new home, planning which room would be Ethan's office and which would be Maya's. She'd enrolled in business school, finally pursuing the degree she'd always dreamed about. And Ethan had surprised her by offering to help however she needed. That evening, they sat on the floor of the empty living room, eating takeout Chinese food straight from the containers. "This is nice," Maya said, leaning against his shoulder. "No furniture, no electricity in half the rooms, eating takeout on the floor?" "Yeah." Maya smiled. "Just us. No performances, no expectations. Just this." Ethan kissed the top of her head. "I never thought I'd want this. A home, a real partnership, someone who knows all my flaws and loves me anyway." "Your flaws are part of your charm. Name one. You're a control freak. You alphabetize your books. You have to have the last word in every argument." Ethan pulled back, eyebrows raised. "I do not have to have the last word." Maya grinned. "You're literally doing it right now." He opened his mouth, then closed it, laughing. "Fine. You win this round. Progress." They spent the night in their new home, sleeping on an air mattress and talking until the early hours of the morning, about their future, about their dreams, about the family they might have someday. It felt impossible that a year ago, Maya had been scrambling to find work, barely making rent. Now she was married to the love of her life, building a future that felt solid and real. Life wasn't perfect. Ethan still worked too much sometimes. Maya still doubted herself. They argued about stupid things, like whose turn it was to do dishes and whether to get a dog. But they also laughed. A lot. And at the end of every day, they chose each other. Over and over again. One evening, 3 months after moving into the brownstone, Maya came home to find Ethan in the kitchen, attempting to cook. She stopped in the doorway, watching him curse at a pot of boiling water. "What are you doing?" Ethan looked up, looking almost embarrassed. "I was trying to surprise you with dinner. How's it going?" "Terrible. Everything is burning or undercooked, and I think I've destroyed at least 3 pans." Maya laughed, crossing the room to kiss him. "I love you, even when you're a disaster in the kitchen, especially when I'm a disaster in the kitchen." Especially then. They ordered pizza instead, eating it on the back porch and watching the sunset. "Ethan," Maya said after a while. "Yeah? Thank you." "For what?" "For taking a chance on me. For walking into the wrong interview. for being brave enough to turn a fake arrangement into something real. Ethan set down his pizza, turning to face her fully. Maya, I need you to understand something. You saved me. Before you, I was going through the motions, working, existing, but not really living. You reminded me what it feels like to be happy, to want more than just success. He took her hand. So thank you for giving me a second chance at life. Maya felt tears welling up. We saved each other then. Deal. They sat there until the stars came out, wrapped up in each other, and Maya thought about how far they'd come. From strangers, playing pretend, to partners building a life. It hadn't been easy. There were still days when old insecurities crept in, when Maya wondered if she really belonged in Ethan's world. But then he'd look at her with those blue eyes full of love, and she'd remember. This wasn't about his world or her world. This was about their world, the one they were building together, one day at a time. Later that night, as they got ready for bed, Ethan said, I have something for you. He handed her a small velvet box. Maya opened it to find a delicate necklace, a simple pendant shaped like a key. To our new beginning, Ethan said softly, and to always having a home with each other. Maya fastened it around her neck, then pulled him down for a kiss. No more pretending, she whispered against his lips. No more pretending, he agreed. Just us. Forever. And as they fell asleep, wrapped around each other, Maya knew with absolute certainty that walking into the wrong interview had been the best mistake of her entire life. A year into their marriage, Maya stood in the living room of their brownstone, surrounded by moving boxes and furniture draped in sheets. Olivia sat cross-legged on the floor, helping Maya sort through wedding gifts they'd finally gotten around to unpacking. Do you seriously need 4 blenders? Olivia held up yet another fancy kitchen appliance. Blame your mother. Maya laughed. She seems to think I need to run a restaurant. Just then, the front door opened. Ethan came in carrying coffee cups and a bag of pastries. He'd been working from home more often, making good on his promise to prioritize their life together over endless board meetings. Breakfast for my favorite people, he announced, kissing Maya before handing Olivia her iced latte. I'm your only sister, Olivia pointed out. Exactly. You're winning by default. Their easy banter was interrupted by Maya's phone ringing. She glanced at the screen and froze. It was the number for the doctor's office. She'd gone in for routine blood work the week before, but they'd called yesterday saying they needed to discuss the results. Ethan noticed her expression immediately. What's wrong? Maya stood, moving toward the bedroom. I need to take this. She closed the door and answered. 5 minutes later, she emerged, her face pale. Both Ethan and Olivia were on their feet instantly. Maya? What happened? Ethan's voice was tight with concern. Maya looked at him, tears streaming down her face. But she was smiling. I'm pregnant. The room went absolutely silent. Olivia's hands flew to her mouth. Ethan just stared, processing. Maya nodded, crying and laughing at the same time. I'm about 8 weeks along. We're having a baby. Ethan closed the distance between them in 2 strides, cupping her face in his hands. Are you serious? I'm serious. We're going to be parents. For a moment, he looked stunned. Then he laughed, the sound joyous and disbelieving, and kissed her. Olivia was crying now, too, rushing over to hug them both. I'm going to be an aunt. Oh my God, I'm going to be the best aunt ever. I'm buying them so many toys. No, Ethan said, but he was grinning. Yes, Olivia shot back. All the toys. So many toys you'll trip over them. That evening, after Olivia left and they were alone, Ethan pulled Maya onto the couch, his hand resting on her still flat stomach. Are you scared? he asked quietly. Terrified, Maya admitted, but also excited. I never thought I'd have this. A family. Ethan pressed a kiss to her temple. Neither did I. I spent so long building walls, convinced I didn't need anyone. And now look at us. Maya placed her hand over his. You're going to be an amazing father. You think so? I know so. She turned to face him. You're patient, protective, and you've already mastered the art of not sleeping. That's basically parenting in a nutshell. Ethan laughed, pulling her close. I love you, Maya Blackwell. I love you too. Over the next few months, their lives transformed. The brownstone became a construction zone as they converted the spare bedroom into a nursery. Ethan, despite running a multi-billion-dollar company, became obsessed with baby-proofing everything. Maya would find him watching YouTube videos about car seat installation at 2 in the morning. Catherine was overjoyed, immediately taking Maya shopping for baby clothes and offering unsolicited but well-meaning advice about everything from feeding schedules to stroller brands. And Olivia started a group chat called Baby Blackwell Fan Club, where she sent daily memes and announced she was already planning the child's first birthday party. Through it all, Maya watched Ethan slowly shed the last remnants of the cold CEO persona he'd worn like armor when they first met. He talked to her growing belly, read parenting books with an intensity he usually reserved for merger contracts, and cried when they found out they were having a girl. A daughter, he whispered, his hand on Maya's stomach during the ultrasound. We're having a daughter. You're going to spoil her rotten, Maya said. Absolutely, Ethan agreed without hesitation. She's going to have me wrapped around her finger from day one. That night, lying in bed, Ethan traced gentle circles on Maya's belly. Have you thought about names? Maya had been making lists for weeks. I like Emma. Or Sophie. What about you? Ethan was quiet for a moment. I was thinking. Maybe Grace? After my mother's middle name? Maya turned to look at him, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes. Grace Blackwell. I love it. Really? Really? She kissed him softly. Our daughter. Grace. As her due date approached, Maya found herself reflecting on everything that had brought them to this moment. The wrong interview. The fake arrangement. The moment everything became real. She'd walked into Ethan's office thinking she was applying to clean houses. Instead, she'd found her home. Labor came on a rainy Tuesday evening. Ethan, who prided himself on being unflappable in any crisis, completely fell apart. He couldn't find the hospital bag. He forgot his phone. He nearly rear-ended another car twice on the way to the hospital. Maya, between contractions, found it hysterically funny. You run a Fortune 500 company, but a baby has you completely rattled? This is different, Ethan said, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. This is our baby. 14 hours later, Grace Elizabeth Blackwell entered the world, screaming and perfect. When the nurse placed her in Maya's arms, time seemed to stop. She's beautiful, Maya whispered, tears streaming down her face. Ethan sat beside them, his arm around Maya, staring at their daughter with an expression of pure wonder. She's perfect. He looked at Maya, his eyes shining. You're perfect. Thank you for giving me everything I never knew I needed. Maya leaned against him, exhausted and elated and overwhelmed with love. For a man who once thought emotions were a weakness, Ethan cried more in that hospital room than Maya had ever seen. He held Grace with a gentleness that broke Maya's heart in the best way, whispering promises to protect her, to love her, to always be there. When Catherine and Olivia arrived, they both burst into tears at the sight of tiny Grace. My granddaughter, Catherine said, her voice thick with emotion. She's absolutely perfect. Olivia insisted on taking 1,000 photos, narrating a play-by-play for the group chat. Aunt Olivia here, reporting that baby Blackwell is officially the cutest human ever born. The fan club was right to be excited. That first night, after everyone had left, and it was just the three of them, Maya watched Ethan hold Grace, singing softly to her. He looked up and caught Maya staring. What? Just. Maya smiled through fresh tears, thinking about how far we've come, from a fake marriage to this. Who would have thought? Not me, Ethan admitted, but I wouldn't change a single thing. Not even the part where I accidentally walked into your interview. Especially that part. He shifted carefully, moving to sit beside Maya on the hospital bed. Because of that mistake, I found you, and you gave me everything I didn't know I was missing. A home, a family, a reason to be more than just a CEO. Maya rested her head on his shoulder, watching their daughter sleep. This is real, she whispered. All of it. No more pretending. No more pretending, Ethan echoed. Just us. Forever. And as rain pattered against the hospital window, the three of them, this family that started with a lie and became the truest thing either of them had ever known, drifted off to sleep together. 3 years later, the brownstone was filled with the sounds of a toddler's laughter. Grace, now a bright-eyed 3-year-old with her father's blue eyes and her mother's infectious smile, was chasing their golden retriever puppy through the living room. Maya watched from the kitchen, shaking her head with amusement. Grace Blackwell. No running in the house. But Mommy, Duke needs exercise. Grace's logic was already impressively developed for a 3-year-old. Ethan walked in from his home office, immediately scooping Grace up as she ran past. Caught you, little monster, Grace squealed with delight. Daddy, again, after, Ethan promised. Right now, it's lunchtime. The three of them sat at the kitchen table, Grace chattering nonstop about her morning at preschool. She'd inherited both her parents' sharp minds and had 1,000 questions about everything. Why is the sky blue? Why do dogs have 4 legs? Why do you and Mommy kiss so much? That last question made both adults laugh. Ethan glanced at Maya, his eyes warm. Because I love your mom very much. That's yucky, Grace declared, and then went back to eating her sandwich. Life had settled into a beautiful routine. Maya had finished business school and started her own consulting firm, working with small businesses to help them grow. It was fulfilling in a way her old jobs had never been. Ethan had stepped back from some of his CEO responsibilities, promoting trusted executives and focusing on the parts of the business he actually enjoyed. But the biggest change was in how they approached life. No more pretending, no more walls, just honesty, love, and the occasional chaos that came with raising a toddler. That evening, after Grace was in bed, Maya and Ethan sat on the back porch with glasses of wine. It had become their ritual, this quiet time to reconnect after long days. Remember our first dinner? Maya asked suddenly. When you took me to Le Bernardin and I had no idea what half the things on the menu were. Ethan smiled at the memory. You ordered the most expensive item and said it was payback for tricking you into a marriage interview. I was nervous, Maya admitted. I thought you were going to see right through me. I did, Ethan said. I knew you were out of your element. But that's what made you perfect. You weren't trying to impress me. You were just being yourself. Maya leaned against his shoulder. Best wrong interview I ever walked into. Speaking of which, Ethan's tone shifted slightly. I got a call today from a journalist. They want to do a feature on us for their anniversary issue, about how our marriage started. Maya tensed. What did you say? That I'd talk to you first. His hand found hers. I don't think we owe anyone our story. But if we tell it, we control the narrative. It's our choice. Maya thought about it. Part of her wanted to keep their story private, this precious thing that belonged only to them. But another part thought about all the people who might be struggling, who might think happiness was out of reach. What would we say? The truth. Ethan's voice was steady. That we started as a business arrangement, that I was desperate and you were broke, and that somewhere in the middle of all that pretending, we found something real. Maya looked up at him. You wouldn't be embarrassed by how we started? Never. He kissed her forehead. I'm proud of us, of every messy, complicated, beautiful moment. A week later, they sat for the interview in their living room. The journalist, a kind woman named Sarah, asked thoughtful questions. How did it feel to fall in love when you weren't supposed to? What made you decide to make it real? Looking back, would you do anything differently? Maya and Ethan answered honestly, holding nothing back. They talked about the fear, the uncertainty, the moment they realized they'd crossed from fake to real. When the article came out a month later, it went viral. People were moved by their honesty, by the way they'd taken something unconventional and built something beautiful. Social media exploded with comments, some positive, others critical. But Maya and Ethan didn't care. They'd told their truth, and that was enough. Life wasn't perfect. They still argued, still had bad days. Ethan still worked too much sometimes, and Maya still doubted herself when things got hard. Grace went through a phase where she only wanted Daddy at bedtime, which broke Maya's heart a little. But they navigated it all together. When Maya's consulting firm landed its first major client, Ethan threw her a surprise party, inviting all their closest friends and family. When Ethan's company faced a hostile takeover attempt, Maya sat with him every night, helping him strategize and reminding him that his worth wasn't tied to his business success. They built a life that was theirs, not the fairy tale people imagined when they heard billionaire marriage, but something real and messy and infinitely more valuable. On their 5th wedding anniversary, they renewed their vows, not because they needed to, but because they wanted to. This time, it wasn't in a courthouse. It was in the backyard of their brownstone, surrounded by family and friends. Grace stood between them, her tiny hands holding a basket of flower petals. Catherine dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. Olivia recorded everything on her phone, narrating for the group chat that now included dozens of family and friends. Jenna, Maya's maid of honor again, beamed from the front row. Ethan's vows were different this time. Less about contracts and arrangements, more about love and commitment. 5 years ago, he said, his voice strong and clear, I asked you to pretend to be my wife, but you became so much more. You became my partner, my best friend, the mother of my child. You showed me that being vulnerable isn't weakness, that love isn't something to control or manage, it's something to surrender to. He took both her hands. I promise to keep showing up, to keep choosing you, to keep being the man you make me want to be, every single day for the rest of our lives. Maya's vows were simpler, but no less powerful. When I walked into that interview, she said, her voice wavering with emotion, I was lost, broke, desperate. I thought I was looking for a job, but I found a home. I found you. She squeezed his hands. You taught me that I was worthy, that I deserved more than scraping by. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and you gave me a love I didn't think existed outside of fairy tales. Her voice broke. I promise to keep fighting for us, to keep choosing honesty over fear, to love you in all your perfect imperfection, today, tomorrow, and always. When they kissed, Grace clapped and shouted, Yay! Mommy and Daddy! Making everyone laugh through their tears. The reception lasted late into the night. Ethan pulled Maya onto the makeshift dance floor they'd set up, swaying to a song that had become theirs. This is everything I never knew I wanted, he whispered in her ear. Maya looked around at their family, their friends, their daughter dancing with Olivia. This is everything we built together. Not everything, Ethan said. His hand moved to her stomach. Maya's eyes widened. She was only about 6 weeks pregnant with their second child, and they'd decided to keep it secret a little longer. But apparently, Ethan couldn't resist. "We're just getting started, Mrs. Blackwell." Maya laughed, tears of joy streaming down her face. "We really are, Mr. Blackwell." As the night wound down and Grace fell asleep in her grandmother's arms, Maya and Ethan stood on their porch, watching the stars. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't walked into that wrong interview?" Maya asked. "Every day," Ethan admitted. "And every day, I'm grateful for that mistake. Because sometimes, the best things in life are the ones we never planned for." Maya leaned into him, feeling his heartbeat steady against her back. "No more pretending." "No more pretending," Ethan echoed. "This is real. All of it." And as they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, both of them knew with absolute certainty that this messy, beautiful, unexpected life they'd built together was more than either of them had ever dreamed possible. It had started with a lie, but it had become the truest thing either of them had ever known. 10 years after that fateful wrong interview, Maya Blackwell stood in the conference room of her thriving consulting firm, wrapping up a presentation to a potential client. Her team of 12 employees sat around the table, their faces reflecting pride in what they'd built together. As the client shook her hand and confirmed they wanted to move forward, Maya felt a surge of satisfaction, not because of the money, though that was certainly nice, but because she'd built something real, something hers. That evening, she came home to organized chaos. Ethan was in the kitchen attempting to help their 7-year-old son, Lucas, with a science project, while Grace, now 10, practiced piano in the living room. Duke, the golden retriever who was no longer a puppy, lay sprawled on the floor, supremely unbothered by the noise. "Mommy," Lucas ran to her, glue sticking to his fingers. "Look, we're building a volcano. It's going to explode." "Preferably not inside the house," Maya said, kissing his forehead before crossing to Ethan. "How was your day?" "Chaotic." He kissed her properly. "But good. Board meeting went well. And I got home in time for science project duty. Progress." Maya grinned. 5 years ago, you would have missed this for a conference call. 5 years ago, I was an idiot who didn't know what mattered." He pulled her close. "Now I know. It's this. All of this." Grace finished her song and ran over. "Mom, can I tell you about school?" Over dinner, Grace talked about her day with the dramatic flair she'd inherited from Aunt Olivia. Lucas showed off his volcano, which did indeed explode, covering the kitchen table in baking soda foam. And through it all, Maya and Ethan exchanged looks that said, "This is our life. Chaotic, messy, and absolutely perfect." Later, after the kids were in bed, they collapsed onto the couch. Maya kicked off her heels with a sigh of relief. "Some things never change." "You still hate heels," Ethan observed. "Always will. But you still wear them to important meetings, because they make me feel powerful." Maya grinned. "Even if my feet disagree." Ethan pulled her feet onto his lap, beginning to massage them. "You're powerful with or without the heels. You've built an incredible business. You're an amazing mother." And he looked at her with the same intensity he'd had 15 years ago. "You're still the best decision I ever made." Maya's eyes softened, even though it started as a complete accident, especially because of that. Ethan leaned over to kiss her. The best things in life usually are. Their peaceful moment was interrupted by small footsteps. Lucas appeared in the doorway, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. "I had a bad dream." Both parents opened their arms immediately, and Lucas climbed between them. Ethan tucked him close. Want to tell us about it? It was about school. Lucas's voice was small. What if no one likes me? Maya exchanged a look with Ethan. She saw her own past insecurities reflected in her son's eyes, remembered what it felt like to doubt your own worth. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "some people won't like you. And that's okay, because the people who matter, the ones who really see you, they're going to love you exactly as you are." Ethan added, "And when things get hard, you come to us. Always. We're your team." Lucas nodded, already looking more settled. "Just like you and Mom?" "Just like me and Mom," Ethan confirmed. After Lucas fell asleep between them, Maya whispered, "We're doing okay at this parenting thing, right?" "Better than okay." Ethan kissed the top of Lucas's head. "We're giving them what we both needed. A home where they're loved unconditionally." The following weekend, they hosted a big family gathering. Catherine, now in her 70s, and still sharp as ever, held court in the living room. Olivia, who'd recently gotten engaged to a wonderful woman named Rachel, kept everyone laughing with stories about her chaotic work as a social worker. Jenna arrived with her husband and twin boys, who immediately disappeared into the backyard with Grace and Lucas. The brownstone was full of noise and life and love. At one point, Maya found herself in the kitchen with Catherine. The older woman was cutting vegetables for salad, her movements practiced and efficient. "You've built a beautiful life," Catherine said without preamble. "Thank you," Maya replied, unsure where this was going. "When Ethan first brought you home, I wasn't sure." Catherine set down her knife. "I thought maybe it was too fast, too convenient. But I was wrong." She turned to face Maya. "You saved my son. He was drowning in expectations and control, and you taught him how to breathe again." Maya felt her eyes prick with tears. "He saved me too." "That's how the best partnerships work." Catherine squeezed her shoulder. "You save each other." That evening, as the sun set and their guests lingered, Maya stood on the back porch, watching Ethan play with the kids. He was being a dragon, growling and chasing them around the yard while they shrieked with laughter. Grace tackled him, and they both went down in a heap. Lucas piled on top. Duke barked enthusiastically, wanting in on the fun. This was Ethan Blackwell, not the cold CEO from magazine covers, but the man who wore grass stains on his jeans and didn't care. The father who prioritized bedtime stories over board meetings. The husband who still looked at her like she was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Olivia appeared beside Maya, 2 beers in hand. She offered one. "Penny for your thoughts?" Maya took the beer, smiling. "Just thinking about how strange life is, how one wrong turn can lead to exactly where you're supposed to be." Olivia clinked their bottles together, to wrong turns and right people, to happy accidents and found family. They drank, watching the scene before them. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and the kids were asleep, Maya and Ethan cleaned up together. It was a comfortable routine, moving around each other in sync. Ethan washed while Maya dried. "Remember when you couldn't even boil water?" Maya teased. "I've evolved," Ethan said with mock dignity. "Now I can almost make scrambled eggs without burning them." "Almost," Maya laughed. "My hero." He set down the dish he was washing, turning to her with suddenly serious eyes. "I mean it, though. You are my hero." "Maya, every day, I wake up grateful that you walked into that wrong interview, that you took a chance on a ridiculous arrangement, that you loved me when I barely knew how to love myself." Maya set down her towel, moving into his arms. We were both taking chances. 2 desperate people making a crazy decision, and it worked out better than either of us could have imagined. They swayed gently in the kitchen, no music needed. Because this was their song, not the one they danced to at their wedding, but the quiet rhythm of a life built together. One day at a time. One choice at a time. Always choosing each other. "No more pretending," Maya whispered. "Never again," Ethan agreed. "This is real, all of it." And as they stood there, in their kitchen with grass-stained kids' clothes in the laundry and dishes still to finish, Maya Blackwell knew that this was what happiness looked like. Not perfect, not glamorous, but real. And real, she'd learned, was so much better than any fantasy she could have imagined. 20 years after Maya walked into the wrong interview, she stood in a different conference room. This time, she wasn't the one presenting. She was watching Grace, now 23 and fresh out of business school, give her first major pitch to a potential client. Maya sat in the back row, trying not to cry as her daughter commanded the room with the same confidence Ethan had always carried, tempered with Maya's warmth. When Grace closed the deal, Maya caught Ethan's eye across the room. He was beaming with pride, and when Grace looked their way, she grinned and mouthed, "I did it." That evening, the whole family gathered for dinner at the brownstone. Grace was celebrating her win. Lucas, now 17 and in his final year of high school, was stressing about college applications. And Ethan and Maya, now in their 50s, watched their children with a mixture of pride and bittersweet nostalgia. "Remember when they were tiny," Maya said quietly to Ethan as they did dishes later. "Grace with her million questions, and Lucas with his dinosaurs?" "Every second," Ethan replied. "And now look at them. Brilliant, capable, ready to take on the world." Where did the time go? Maya shook her head in wonder. It went into this. He gestured around them, into building something that lasts. Later that night, unable to sleep, Maya wandered into Ethan's home office. He was still up, reading something on his tablet. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, setting it aside. "Too many memories today." Maya settled into his lap. Something that still felt natural after 2 decades. "Watching Grace made me think about how far we've come. Do you remember?" Ethan's arms came around her. "Every moment. The first time I saw you, looking completely lost in my conference room. The way you challenged me instead of trying to impress me. The night I realized I'd fallen in love with you and had no idea what to do about it." Maya laughed softly. "You were terrified." "Absolutely." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "Love wasn't supposed to be part of the plan. But then again, neither were you. And you've been the best surprise of my life." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Maya said, "Do you have any regrets about how we started?" "None." Ethan's answer was immediate. "If I could go back, I wouldn't change a single thing. Every mistake, every moment of doubt, every time we almost got it wrong, it all led us here. And here is perfect." The next morning, Maya woke to find Ethan already up, standing by their bedroom window with coffee. But he wasn't alone. Grace was there too, and they were talking quietly. Maya stayed still, listening. "Dad, I need to tell you something," Grace said, sounding nervous. Ethan's posture shifted to alert. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." Grace took a deep breath. "I've been seeing someone for 6 months now. And it's serious." Ethan was quiet for a beat. 6 months? Why didn't you tell us sooner?" "Because," Grace's voice wavered, "we met in an unconventional way, and I was worried about what you'd think." Maya had to bite back a smile, like history repeating itself. Ethan must have thought the same thing because his shoulders relaxed. "Grace, however you met this person, if they make you happy and treat you well, that's all that matters. Your mom and I of all people have no room to judge unconventional." Grace laughed, relief evident. "Really? Really? Now, tell me about them." Maya listened as Grace described her girlfriend, a fellow business school student, who challenged her and made her laugh and made her want to be better. The love in Grace's voice was unmistakable. After Grace left, Ethan turned to find Maya awake. "You heard all that?" "Every word." Maya sat up. "Our daughter's in love." He settled back onto the bed beside her. "Think we should tell her our story? The real story. I think she already knows the important parts." Maya leaned against him. "That love can start in the strangest ways. That what matters isn't how you begin, but what you build together. That real love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing each other, every single day." Ethan kissed her, slow and deep and full of 20 years of history. "Best wrong interview I ever conducted. Best wrong interview I ever walked into," Maya agreed. 6 months later, they sat in the audience as Grace introduced them to her girlfriend, officially at a family dinner. And as Maya watched her daughter navigate her own path to love, she felt the circle completing. This was what they'd built. Not just a marriage or a family, but a legacy of love that would outlast them. That night, back home, Ethan pulled out an old box from his closet. Inside were mementos from their early days, the contract they'd originally drawn up, photos from fake events that had become real, the business card he'd given her that first day. Maya laughed, touching the worn edges. We really were insane. Completely. Ethan grinned. But we made it work. We more than made it work. Maya looked at him, this man who'd started as a stranger offering a business deal and became her entire world. We built something beautiful. They burned the contract that night in the fireplace, not because they needed to erase the past, but because it no longer defined them. What defined them now was simple: love, choice, commitment. And as they watched the papers turn to ash, Maya thought about that scared girl who'd walked into the wrong interview 2 decades ago. If she could go back and tell her younger self anything, it would be this: walk through the wrong door. Take the crazy chance. Say yes to the impossible. Because sometimes, the biggest mistakes lead to the greatest loves. And sometimes, pretending to be someone's wife becomes the realest thing you've ever done. Ethan pulled her close, and Maya settled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, the same steady rhythm that had become her home. "This is forever," she whispered. "This is forever," he agreed. "No more pretending." "Never," Maya confirmed. "This is real. All of it. Always." And in the quiet of their home, with their children sleeping upstairs, and their whole beautiful, messy, perfect life surrounding them, Maya Blackwell knew with absolute certainty